Hi and welcome to my live stream. I'm waiting for people to join, and I'm expecting that my readers and my audience would soon join me. Today's special is Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. Until my readers join me, I'm gonna give you a quick recap of the book. The book is about the protagonist of the book, called Salim Sinai, is an Indian man who is living in a post-colonial India, and the book is basically based on magical realism, and he has a long journey discovering himself and about his identity. And what's more interesting is that his diabolical identity, is quite similar to that of his nation, and both of their identities are quite diabolical, and they are skeptic, and they are interrelated, and a lot of turbulence is there in their identity. And the book is quite fascinating in its term of magical realism. As we all know, the writing style of Salman Rushdie, he has been creating and generating marvels into the literary realm of magical realism. I'm waiting for my viewers to join, and I'll be starting this amazing book called Midnight Children by Salman Rushdie. And interestingly, this is a new edition. I bought a new edition, which was a gift from one of my admirer, and I got this book as a present. And Salman Rushdie, in this 40th edition, says that the book is quite special for him. This edition is quite special for him as well. He says, the first thing to say on the 40th anniversary of this novel is that I'm more than glad it is still finding readers who are still something of value in its pages. So you can see that Salman Rushdie is quite odd that people still find it relevant and amazing, and no doubt that this book has created buzz into the field of magical realism and fiction in general. The book created a lot of viewership. So the book is not just amazing as a children book, but it gives birth to a lot of curiosity among its readers. So I'm going to start with the first chapter of this book, and it's also humorous as well. The first chapter is it reads the perforated sheet. So it's a bed sheet. It's sort of a bed sheet with a hole in it, and it is both hilarious, and it's quite intimidating as well. So I'm gonna start the first chapter of this book, and it starts like this. I was born in the city of Bombay once upon a time. No, that won't do. There's no getting away from the date. I was born in Dr. Narlikar's nursing home on August 15th, 1947. And the time. The time matters too. Well, then, at night. No, it's important. It's important to be more, or the stroke of midnight. Well, just leaving. Thank you for joining. It is first chapter of Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children. So I'm going to start it from very starting, and I hope that people who have joined me would love to listen. And please suggest me about my narrating techniques. I would like to get your feedback, and I'll be super amazed to read your comments. So it says, oh, spell it out, spell it out. At the precise instant of India's arrival at independence, I trembled forth into the world. There were gasps, and outside the window fireworks and crowds. A few seconds later, my father broke his big toe, but his accident was a mere trifle when set beside what had fallen me in that benighted moment, because thanks to the occult tyrannies of those blindly saluting clocks, I had been mysteriously handcuffed to history, my destinies indissolubly chained to those of my country. For the next 3 decades there was to be no escape. Soothsayers had prophesied me, newspapers celebrated my arrival, politicos ratified my authenticity. I was left entirely without a say in the matter. I, Salim Sinai, later variously called Snot Nose, Stain Face, Baldy, Sniffer, Buddha, and even Piece of the Moon, had become heavily embroiled in fate, at the best of times a dangerous sort of involvement. And I couldn't even wipe my own nose at the time. Mr. Just Living, I think that you might be misled by something. That's just quite my natural accent, and I have been talking this for my entire childhood, and I talk like that only. Maybe if you're new to my channel, you should subscribe, and you should also watch the rest of my videos, and you would get to know that that's the only accent that I have been speaking into, and that's the only accent that I narrate my books usually in. And I appreciate that you join my live, and please keep the comments supportive, and please share it. Now, however, time having no further use for me is running out. I will soon be 31 years old, perhaps if crumbling over used body permits, but I have no hope of saving my life, nor can I count on having 1,000 nights and a night. I must work fast, faster than Shahrazad's, if I am to end up meaning, yes, meaning something, I admit it. Above all things, I fear absurdity. And there are so many stories to tell, too many. Such an excess of intertwined lives, even miracle, places, rumors, so dense and commingling of the improbable and the mundane. I have been a swallower of lives, and to know me, just the one of me, you'll have to swallow the lot as well. Consumed multitudes are jostling and shoving inside me, and gilded only by the memory of large white bedsheet with a roughly circular hole, some 7 inches in diameter, cut into the center, clutching at the dreams of the wholly mutilated square of linen, which in my talisman, my open sesame, I must commence the business of remaking my life from the point at which it really began. Some 32 years, anything as obvious as present as my clock-ridden, crime-stained birth. One Kashmiri morning in the early springs 1915, my grandfather Adam Aziz hit his nose against a frost-hardened tussock of earth which attempting to pray. 3 drops of blood plopped out of his left nostril, hardened instantly in the brittle air, and lay before his eyes on the prayer mat, transformed into rubies, lurching back until he knelt with his head once more upright. He found that the tears which had sprung into his eyes had solidified too, and the moment as he brushed diamonds contemptuously from his lashes, he resolved never again to kiss earth for any god or man. This decision, however, made a hole in him, a vacancy in a vital inner chamber, leaving him invulnerably to women and history. Oh well, where do I live? Well, I live in India for now. I'm currently living in India only. You admire Salman Rushdie? Well, as a literary scholar, we don't admire writers. Well, we read them, we analyze them, we read their works, we appreciate their works, and we do not read them based on their ideology or something. We read their works and analyze their works only. Thank you for your kind feedback. And maybe I conducted this session for reading only, and I'm eventually reading your comments. And thanks for joining. And I'm trying to respond to your comments. So, what is his claim to fame? Well, I don't know what you are hinting about his claim. Uh, there could be multitudinous answers to his claim to fame, uh, but in general, his fame has come from using a literary genre called magical realism, and he uses magical realism in most of his works. Why he is famous for? Well, he became famous for his work, a lot of his works, and Midnight's Children is one among them. And he is quite famous for using his literary narrative called mm, magical realism, because he puts a lot of magical touch into the reality, and when he intermixes it, it's called magical realism. I hope that answers your question. Unaware of this at first, despite his recently completed medical training, he stood up, rolled the prayer mat into a thick cheroot, and holding it under his right arm, surveyed valley through clear diamond-free eyes. The world was new again after a winter's gestation in its eggshell of ice. The valley had beaked its way out into the open, moist and yellow. The new grass bided its time underground. The mountains were retreating to their hill stations for the warm season, and it shrank under the ice. The mountains closed it and snarled like angry jaws around the city on the lake. In those days, the radio mast had not been built, and the temple of Shankaracharya, a little black blister on the Khaki Hill, still dominated the streets and lake of Srinagar. In those days, when there was no army camp at the lakeside, no endless snake of camouflage trucks and jeeps clogged the narrow mountain roads, no soldier hid behind the crest of the mountain past Baramulla and Gulmarg. In those days, travelers were not shot at spies if they took photographs of bridges apart from Englishman houseboat on the lake. The valley had hardly changed since the Mughal Empire, for all its springtime renewals, but my grandfather's eyes, which were like the rest of him, 25-year-old, saw things differently, and his nose had started to itch. Critiques of some religions maybe could be a proper honor. Maybe you mean answer. Critics of some religion. I don't know how he's got to be famous because of critics of some religion. But well, I know that he did a blasphemy for that. He was sued for, and he was declared quite a blasphemous person for writing against religion, against religions of prominence rather. I hope that answers. Maybe you're quite mistaken with the term critiques of some religion. It was basically a blasphemy that he attempted, and he was sued for the same. Grandfather's altered vision. He had spent 5 years, 5 springs away from home. The tussock of earth, crucial through its presence, was it crouched under a changed wrinkle of the prayer mat, was at the bottom no more a catalyst. Now returning, he saw through travelled eyes Instead of the beauty of the tiny valley circled by giant teeth, he noticed the narrowness, the proximity of horizon, and felt sad to be at home, feel so utterly enclosed. He also felt inexplicably as though the old place resented his education's stethoscope return. Beneath the winter ice it had only cold neutral, but now there was no doubt. Thank you for acknowledging it. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Acknowledging what? I mean, it's part of a writer's journey to write things that are acceptable in society and things that are not acceptable in society, things that are skeptical and things that are lucid. It's all part of writing journey, and maybe he tried to represent his point of view. But having freedom of speech does not mean that you harm someone's faith and insult someone's faith, or you harm someone's dignity. So, whenever you're allowed to have freedom of speech or freedom of expressions, we as literary scholars or as authors or as writers should know that it is our duty to be unbiased and to check the authenticity of our work, to check the reliability of our work, and to ensure that our work does not harm people in a way they are not involved. For example, he did blasphemy. He could have criticized Muslims in general. He could have criticized the ulamas of general. He could have criticized the current regime of Muslims that he is opposed to. But criticizing one's own religion in a way that you don't understand it, or criticizing others' religion in a way you don't understand their religion, it's not acceptable. And I do not suppose Salman Rushdie in attempting blasphemy. It is wrong on his part. On the morning when the valley gloved in a prayer mat punched him on the nose, he had been trying absurdly to pretend that nothing had changed. So he had risen in the bitter cold of 14, washed himself in the prescribed fashion dress, and put on his father's Astrakhan cap, after which he had carried and rolled cheroot of the prayer mat into the small lakeside garden in front of the old dark house and rolled it over the waiting tussock. The ground felt deceptively soft under his feet and made him simultaneously uncertain and unwary. In the name of the God, the compassionate, the merciful, and exordium spoken with hand joined before him like a book, comforted a part of him and made another large part feel uneasy. Praise to be Allah, Lord of the creation. But now Heidelberg invaded his head. So it means he was not fair to his job as academic. Yes, he was not fair to his job as an academic, because being an academic or being as an author or being as a critic, you're supposed to be reliable to your work. You're supposed to have authenticity of your work, and your work should be grounded. If he is criticizing something, he should have a sound answer rather than hiding from the press conferences, or rather hiding from acknowledging what he has done, or rather from not accepting debates on what he has written, or defending, at least defending what he has written. He has chosen escapism, he has chosen asylum, he has chosen other ways. He could have come forefront and talked about why he has written the work. If he would have been proved guilty, he could have apologized. But he did not chose any of those ways that tells that his work Satanic Verse was not reliable. Rather, it was quite blasphemous, and it was not acceptable. Well, personally, I have not read it, so I would say that we both should limit comment on Satanic Verses. But if you have any sort of questions regarding the Midnight's Children, I am heartfully am totally open to questions on this session rather. Maybe in future, if I do read satanic verses, I'll be able to answer all your questions. Praise to be Allah, Lord of the creation, but now Heidelberg invaded his head. He was enraged. Briefly, he is enraged, her face scorning him for this Mecca turn parroting. Here their friend Oscar and Issa Lubin, the anarchists, mocking his prayer with their anti-ideologies, the compassionate, the merciful king of the last judgment. Heidelberg, in which along with the medicine and politics he learned that India, like radium, had been discovered by the Europeans. Even Oscar was filled with admiration for Vasco da Gama, and this was what finally separated Adam Aziz from his friends, this belief of theirs that he was somehow the invention of their ancestors. You alone we worship, and to you alone we pray for help. So here he was, despite their presence in his head, attempting to reunite himself with an earlier self which ignored their influence but knew everything it ought to have known about submission, for example, about what he was doing now as his hand, guided by old memories, fluttered upward, thumbs pressed to his ears, fingers spread, as he sank to his knees. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those who have favored. But it was no good. He was caught in the strange middle ground, trapped between belief and disbelief, and this was only a charade after all. Not of those who have incurred your warmth, nor of those who have gone astray. My grandfather bent his forehead toward the earth, forwarded he bent, and the earth prayer mat curved up toward him. And now it was the tussock time. At one and the same time a rebuke from smote him. Upon the point of the nose 3 drops fell. There were rubies and diamonds, and my grandfather, lurching upright, made a resolve, stood, rolled churrut, started across the lake, and he was knocked forever into the middle place, unable to worship a god in whose existence he could not wholly disbelieve. Permanent alliteration, a hole. The young newly qualified Dr. Adam Aziz stood facing the springtime lake, sniffing the whiffs of change while his back was turned upon yet more changes. His father had had a stroke in his absence abroad, and his mother had kept it a secret. His mother's voice whispering stoically, because your studies were too important, son. The mother, who had spent her life housebound in Purda, had suddenly found enormous strength and gone out to run the small Jamestown business, turquoise, rubies, diamonds, which had put Adam through medical college, which the help of the scholarship as he returned to find the seemingly immutable order of his family turned upside down, his mother going out to work while his father sat hidden behind the wheel, which the stroke had dropped over his brain. In a wooden chair in a darkened room he sat and made bird noises. 30 different species of birds visited him and sat on the still outside shuttered window, covering about this and that he seemed happy enough. And already I have seen the reputations beginning, because didn't my grandmother also find enormous, and the stroke too was not the only, and the brass monkey had her birds. The curse begins already, and we haven't even got to the noses yet. The lake was no longer frozen over. The thaw had come rapidly as usual. Many of the small boats, the shikaras, had been caught napping which was also normal. But while these sluggards slept down and on dry land, snoring peacefully beside their owners, the oldest boat was up at the crack, as old folk often are, and was therefore the first craft to move across unfrozen lake. Thai shikara, this too was customary. Watch how the old boatman Thai makes good time through the misty waters, standing stooped over at the back of his craft. How his oar, a wooden heart on a yellow stick, drives jerkily through the weeds. In these parts he is considered very odd because he rows standing up. Among other reasons, Thai, bringing an urgent summon to Dr. Aziz, is about to set history in motion. While Adam, looking down into the river, recalls what Thai taught him years ago. This, the ice, is always waiting. Adam Baba, just under the water's skin, Adam's eye are a clear blue, the astonishing blue. The mountain sky, which has a habit of dripping into the pupil of Kashmiri men. They have not forgotten how to look. They see there, like the skeleton of a ghost just beneath the surface of the dull lake, the delicate tracery, the intricate creases of colorless linen, the cold waiting veins of the future. His German years, which have blurred so much even, haven't deprived him of the gut of seeing. Thai's gift. He looks up, sees the approaching V of the Thai's boat, waves a greeting. Thai's arm rises, but this is a command. Wait. My grandfather waits, and during this hiatus, as experiencing the last piece of his life, a muddy, ominous sort of peace, I had better get apologies. I had better get round to describing him, keeping out of my voice, the natural enemy of the ugly man, for the strikingly impressive. I record that Dr. Aziz was a tall man. Uh, Muhammad Razal, hello, and I'm glad that you joined me midnight reading session. And today I'm reading Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children, and we were discussing about how amazing this book of Salman Rushdie is. No matter what kind of what kind of work Salman Rushdie writes, some of his works are quite amazing. What is this? Well, this is a midnight reading session. I am conducting midnight reading sessions these days where I read books and I do midnight live sessions and we interact. Sure. Thank you for joining, and I'm so glad that you are part of my life today. Keeping out of my voice the natural envy of the ugly man for the strikingly impressive, I record that Dr. Aziz was a tall man pressed flat against the wall of his family home. He measured 25 bricks, or just over 6'2". A strong man also, his beard was thick and red and annoyed his mother, who said only Hajis, men who had made the pilgrimage to Mecca, should grow red beard. His hair, however, was rather dark. His sky eyes, about Ingrid had said. They went mad with the colors when they had made your face. Well, I'm from Kashmir. You can say I'm from Jammu and Kashmir. It's a part of Indian state. And where are you from? I would be glad to know where you're joining me from. They went mad with the colors when they made your face, but the central feature of my grandfather's anatomy was neither color nor height, neither strength of arm nor straightness of back. There it was reflecting in the water, undiluting like a mad plantain in the center of his face. Adam Aziz, waiting for Ty, watches his rippling nose. It would have been dominated less dramatic faces than his, easily even on him. It is that one sees first and remembers longest. A cray nose. A cray nose, ils Lubin said, and Oscar added, a probiscimus. Uh, yeah, I would be glad if you would subscribe to my channel, and if you would share my channel with your colleagues who are reading enthusiasts. You're in Korea, you're in Busan. Oh wow, that's a great place. And lots of love from Kashmir to Korea right now. And we pray for your well being, and God bless you, and may you be healthiest and wealthiest. And once again, thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. My grandfather's nostril flaring curvaceous as dances between them swells the nose, triumphal arch, first up and out, then down and under, sweeping to his upper lip with a superb and at present red-tip flick. An easy nose to hit a tussock with. I wish to place on record my gratitude to this mighty organ. If not for it, who would ever have believed me to be truly my mother's son, my grandfather's grandson? This colossal apartment, which was to my brightening too, Dr. Aziz's nose comparable only to the trunk of the elephant's headed god Ganesh, established incontrovertibly his right to be a patriarch. It was Ty who taught him that too. When young Adam was barely past puberty, the dilapidated boatman said, "That's a nose to start a family on, my princeling. There'd be no mistaking. There'd be no mistaking whose brood they were. Mughal emperors would have given their right hands for noses like that one. There were dynasties waiting inside it." And here Ty lapsed into coarseness like snot. Muhammad Razal, now you're in Korea, so does that mean you're from somewhere else? Are you from South Asia by any chance? And now you have moved? Uh, you have a suggestion? I appreciate that. Please suggest me. I'm open to suggestions and appreciations. I would be glad to hear you. On Adam Aziz, the nose assumed. You want me to change blue light? Sure. Let me try. I'll change the blue light. Mm, maybe that's too dark again. Maybe that's too tinty. Mm. Let me just try real quick. I'll just try a soft warm light. That's too harsh. Let me just switch it to golden. Is it better now? So actually this is mid. Lot of people hate blue light in dark, so your views will decrease. Thank you for the suggestion. I guess this is fine. This looks better now. uh, can you just confirm that whether it looks great or not? Is it better now? Thank you. uh, so what do you think? Should I summarize this book, Midnight's Children, for you, or should I just keep reading? Just Maybe my light's quite messing up. Let me just, I guess, let me just brighten it a bit. uh, it's good now. As a wish. So maybe I could summarize this book for you. Maybe you'll be quite exhausted if I would go reading it all night. um, or maybe I'll just summarize you the first chapter, so we could come again tomorrow with the chapter 2. So in chapter 1 of this book, the protagonist, Salim Sinai. Salim is the protagonist of this book, who is born on the midnight of 1947, and luckily he was born at the stroke of midnight when India got its independence. India was divided into two states, and you might have heard about two-state theory of India, dividing into Hindu majority India and Muslim majority Pakistan. At the stroke of the midnight, the Salim Sinai, the protagonist of Salman Rushdie in this book, was born along with the state of India. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprising, because Salman Rushdie uses magical realism for a reason, the fate of Salim Sinai, who is protagonist, got intertwined with the fate of his country, or fate of India. You like nature books? Well, currently I'm not reading any nature books. Uh, or maybe lately I read a nature book, which was not completely nature, but it was still connected to the nature. It was The Ministry of Utmost Happiness by Arundhati Roy, who criticized, it was actually about the eco-criticism, who was criticizing the government's unjurisdictory cutting of forests, and she pitched her voice in order to conserve the uh, okay, you know magical realism. So if you know magical realism, you might know that how exciting things get into magical realism. And similarly, magical realism is used into this book. So maybe I'll just uh, put this book here, so you can have, so I won't have to remind you about the book. So he uses magical realism into this book in order to incorporate the identity of Salim with the country. So whatever misfortune happened with the Salim happens with his country as well, and whatever misfortune happens to India as a country, the same misfortune happens to Salim Sinai as well. So their identities are interlinked. And interestingly, for the part of magical realism, Salman Rushdie has given superpowers to his characters. He has, although the book is quite realistic, it is based on real lives, it is based, not real life, I mean, on the real scenario of the country post independence, but he has given super magical powers to his characters. So maybe I won't deteriorate your interest into the book. I'll keep it suspensive, but I'll still give you hints about the magical realism part. So he has the Salim Sinai. He has a big snot nose. He has a nose like the Ganesh of Hindu mythology, and his nose has superpowers. Actually, he can smell into different things. He can smell people from far away. He can smell directions. He can you might have heard that phrase that he can smell colors now. It's a funny phrase that he can smell colors now. But in this novel, the Midnight Children by Salman Rushdie, he can smell the directions. He can smell anything that he wants to. He can smell fear. He can smell a lot of different things. And in opposed to this character. The antagonist of this character is called Shiva. He has a very strong power. He has a dark aura. He has a power to kill anybody. He has a power to destroy anything he wants. He has thick elbows and thick knees, and he has a technique called death choke. He chokes people by choking them into his knees. So this was a short about the magical realism, and that was incorporated by Salman Rushdie into this book. I think that if we would go talking about this book for long, it will just keep prolonging itself, because there is a lot of happenings into this book. You know, summarizing this book in a short gist, I would say that the book is 5 out of 5, and it's super amazing. And the book is quite interesting. This book in particular has created a lot of buzz into the post-colonial literature, because the book is uh, sorry, bro, Anyong from my sis. Sorry, can you rewrite that, because I did not get it. uh, thank you, Rizal. uh, uh, so I was talking about the book, that the book is quite pioneering work into the post-colonial Indian literature. In this book, basically, Salman Rushdie has written the deteriorating state of condition of Indian state, and he has also tried to highlight how British, or how the British Empire has treated India, how British Empire, sitting into their own lands, have uh, divided India into two countries, into India and Pakistan, and how miserable the lives of Indians, Pakistanis, and Bangladeshis have got because of the British people. Uh, Especially magical realism has been used into the narrative of Sundarbans. Sundarbans, if you might have heard, are large tropical rainforests. Not rainforest, I mean large tropical forest into Indian West Bengal and Bangladesh. Uh, it's in Bangladesh, and the imagery that Salman Rushdie has used there is quite fantastic. If you will read this book, you will be amazed, because trees, it's I cannot recall. Oh yeah, it's called Sundari trees. So the Sundari trees, they are trees. They are alive. They have memories in them. The trees have memory in them, and the trees, when people get uh, lost into the forest tries to disembowel them. It tries to enter their mouth, it tries to enter their body through their mouth. And when you're reading this book, actually you might find it disgusting at certain point, when the forest or the trees try to enter the humans from all the possible openings of their body. They try to enter them from their ears, from the nose, from their nostrils, from their mouth, from their eyes, from all the possible cavities of your body. Forest tries to enter your body, and in order to control you. And the forest not only controls you physically through entering your body, but forest also controls you psychologically, mentally, and subconsciously, because for the Sundari forest or the Sundarban forest deceive the protagonists by performing enchantment on them. It arranges three virgins And when people get lost into the forest, they see these virgin women, and they remove their clothes, they remove their all sort of bondages, they consummate their relationship with these women, they have a physical relationship with their women. But what's disastrous and what's ironic is that when they wake up next day, they are totally flabbergasted. Rather, they are surprised. They feel like horrific. They feel this horrible experience, because next day when they wake up, they see that there were no women. Can you believe that? There were no women, there were no virgins, they were all bones. They were all bones from a long, long ago. There was a deity called Kali Mata, or it's a deity in Hinduism or in a pagan religion. So next day when they wake up, they see that there were no virgins that they consummated with or they had sexual relationship with. Rather, the forest was trying to play tricks with them. So Rizal, you said Anyong means hi. I don't know how to reply with that, but if Anyongs mean hi, then hi from my side, and Anyong. I hope that's the right thing, that right way of salutation. Uh, and hi to everybody who is joining my live, and we are discussing this Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. It's a book on magical realism. It's a post-colonial book, and it's about a lot of a lot of stuff is going on in this book. It's about post-colonialism, it's about the child narration, it's about the magical realism, it's about the fantasy, it's about the sort of superheroes as well, because it's not like Marvel or it's not like DC Comics, but it's still a lot of different heroes are into this book. Can you believe that there is a guy in this book who is from Kashmir, the same place that I'm from, and the guy, when he goes close to water and he jumps into the water, he can shapeshift. Isn't it amazing? A book, a normal book with magical realism, and it's not a DC Comics or Marvel. The characters in this book are amazing, and they have superpowers. Some of those characters can fly, I mean, not exactly fly, but they have superpowers, like they can shapeshift, they can turn themselves into sort of mirrors, they can have all sort of powers they want. But the greatest power of all the superheroes in this book is with Salim Sinai, who has the power of telepathy. For example, if I'm sitting here and I want to join you all, Razal and everybody who is watching me, so I would not speak a single word. I'll be sitting here still, and I'll be communicating with you through my mind. This was called the parliament of the superheroes, or parliament of the students, or the parliament of youth, the parliament of superheroes in general, because all of them are superheroes. They had all sort of powers. So the book, I would say, is not just amazing, but totally has a lot of unexpected turns, and it is somehow covers all South Asia into one single book. It includes Bangladesh, it includes India, it includes Pakistan, it includes wider world, because superheroes, all sort of superheroes were from across the world, and all the superheroes were connected through the telepathic power of Salim Sinai. With this, I would take a farewell from you, and I would bid you a goodbye. So we could come tomorrow night again with chapter 2 of the same book, and I'll try to summarize it with more interesting facts. My name is not Razal, my name is Cha Yun Woo. Razal is my friend's name, so you call me Cha Yun Woo. So your name is Cha Yun Woo. Please correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. So Cha Yun Woo, it's quite interesting name, and I'm glad that you have joined. It's his account. Yeah, I read that Muhammad Razal is your friend and you have joined from his account. And best wishes to both of you, Cha Yunwu and Muhammad Razal. I'm wishing you best, and I'm blessing you with a lot of fortune this year. And since you have subscribed to my channel, I hope that you'll be joining me from tomorrow onwards, and we will be covering